I believe our world without transport and logistics would be inconceivable. I also order things on relevant portals and look forward to a punctual delivery to my home. It's definitely a little childhood dream because a railway has always been something special. As a young boy, I also had a model railway and I loved it, to construct it, to rebuild it, to drive the trains, and then to actually conduct the big trains on site, so to speak, is a lot of fun. It's all happening at the outdoor site of the Munich Trade Fair Centre. The setup for the Trade Fair Transport Logistic has begun. This trade fair is the largest in the industry worldwide and showcases every 2 years everything about transportation on water, land and in the air. For this, the preparations, especially for rail logistics, must already start weeks and months in advance. About 115,000 square meters are planned. Project leader Carolina Thiemt is responsible for this. She and her team take care of the setup and cater to the needs of more than 2,160 exhibitors and 56,000 visitors.
Hallo Caro, darf ich dich kurz stören?
Ja, gerne, komm rein.
Wollte mich nur kurz erkundigen, ob du schon Infos hast für mich wegen dem Gleis. Ah ja.
Overall, I was able to place all the exhibits here on the 3 strings. A special challenge, however, this year, the construction of 2 new exhibition halls blocks part of the previous exhibition space on the open-air site. For this reason, Carolina Thiemt and her colleague Christian Lepp have decided to lay new temporary tracks for this year to accommodate all the freight wagons and locomotives of the exhibitors. The exhibition track, which we lay once for 2017, would be here or up here above. We still have a small part. I think this is good. A few days later, a truck brings 100 tons of gravel for nearly 110 meters of tracks. 4 people work for 2 days to lay the tracks for the trade fair. Christian Lepp is head of the technical exhibitor service. He meets today with master track builder Manfred Schober to find the best way to lay the tracks.
Hallo, guten Morgen.
Hello, good morning. So, does it all work? Right now, yes. Although the surface, as you can see, is a bit bumpy back there.
Okay.
But we'll prop it up. The time till the trade fair is getting tight and the uneven and damp ground complicates the work. It's important for me that the laying of the track can be completed on time. And finally, when the locomotives and the wagons arrive, that they can be put on the track. We've still got a small bump in the rear area. The colleagues will smooth it out, so that we have as far as possible an even track. Of course, this is also an appropriate figurehead at a trade fair such as Transport Logistic, so it should correspond visually to the quality standards. While the construction work is underway on the open-air site, the first exhibitor wagons arrive at the adjacent freight handling station in Riem. Its own track connects the goods station in Munich East with the trade fair grounds. Georg Gartner is on the way to the marshalling yard the next morning. The head of the trade fair logistics from DB Schenker has to prepare the safe passage to the exhibition site. This has been, for the last 8 days, my daily route to see what has arrived with the midday train. Today is the main day. Tomorrow, the buffer day. That always depends on how many vehicles the locomotive can take with it. There are a total of 30 vehicles. So on the left here, we've got track 92. This is the track where all the exhibition freight wagons are shunted.
Das ist das Gleis, wo die alle Ausstellungswagen erstmal da drauf rangiert haben.
Good morning. We're getting a container wagon now.
Okay.
And then we join up with the first 2 wagons and then we'll drive over. Okay, fine, I'll drop by again and see how you're doing with track number 1. Before the wagons of the exhibitor can move onto the exhibition grounds, space must be made. At the moment, 6 vehicles block the permanent trade fair tracks. 2 mobile cranes and a low loader are required to transfer them to the specially laid tracks. With the 2 cranes, the freight wagons are raised from the track beds, put on the low loaders, where they're secured, transported to the makeshift tracks, and then unloaded the opposite way round. That all happens quickly. The trade fair is really exciting. Exciting also for the press. Carolina Thiemt looks after the journalists in the meantime. Despite the rain, the interest in loading the wagons is great. All construction work must be completed on time before the start of the trade fair. So, a logistics trade fair with a mass of logistics, that's for sure. Until a trade fair with 9 halls and an outdoor area is ready, there are a lot of busy hands and work, so it looks as nice at the end as we expect it to be. Certainly men's hearts will also beat faster when they see such exhibits, but it already makes me proud that we can show something like this at our trade fair. The next morning at 7 a.m, overnight it's turned to winter. However, today the company Bombardier's locomotive has to be put in place over a ramp on a low loader, on which it is to be presented during the trade fair. The ramp needs a lot of space, so the locomotive must be brought to the right location before the other exhibition stands are set up. Is a small forklift truck meant to help with the construction of the ramp, which is more than 40 meters in length and weighs about 4 tons? That won't work. Now Mr. Gardner must personally find a quick solution. Yes, how long do you need for the... An hour? The ramp came in a different condition from the previous years. That is, before we unloaded it with a small forklift and then assembled the individual parts. It was in several parts here. Now it comes in only 2 parts. That is too heavy for the normal forklift. There's a crane we organised, and the ramp gets set up first in front of the locomotive. Then the low loader comes up, mounts the ramp and can pull up the locomotive.
Die Rampe an und kann dann die Lokomotive rausziehen.
In the meantime, the service technician of the Bombardier company has arrived. Andreas Gluhak supervises the construction on the trade fair site so that everything looks exactly the way the exhibitor wants.
Jetzt weiß ich bloß nicht, wissen Sie wie die...
I don't know. Do you know how they should stop there?
Weil die Frau Koch...
Because Mrs. Cook told me up front and then the edge. Well, I've always put it at the entrance. Let's take a look. Yes, that's sketched in. Here is the outer limit of the Bombardier stand, and then the locomotive will stand right at the front. Rubbish. I'll find out right away. Yes, please. What time is it? 8. It's now being discussed how close to our pavilion this locomotive should be. Normally, we always had it at the entrance, but there might have been a little misunderstanding now. They thought the locomotive would come further forward. It would not be so nice visually that there would be a huge open space. We couldn't fill that in. You see, anyway, we've got a huge logistical effort. It's incredibly complicated work in here on the trade fair site with various other partners. So this is a huge challenge, and of course, that everything goes off correctly and without any damage. This is our big goal, that everything works smoothly. This is also the focus of the Transport and Security Department. The head, Frank Pastior, and his colleague, Christoph Wimber, want to make sure that safety is guaranteed for all parties involved in the construction of the crane. Yes, we pay attention to the fact that all the heavy trucks, all the cranes are positioned correctly, so that they can also bear the heavy load of the locomotive. And Christoph pays particular attention, you can say it better, how things move forward. Yes, first of all, how things move forward. Or what is always a concern for us is the keeping of the escape and rescue routes free. Watch out, I think there's something moving. That's right, he's resetting. For me, it's a mystery how to drive it. No problem. And how's it looking? Do you have everything under control? Everything under control. That means you lower it, shove it underneath, then it's laying on top, then it's secured so it can't slip. Then what? Screwed? Yes. Good. While the ramp gets built on the site, the group leader of DB Cargo, Thomas Gabler, prepares the shunting engine with the first exhibitor wagons at the gateway. They're not allowed to leave the tracks on the way to the trade fair because a new technical inspection permit would also be required if they had to change tracks. The trade fair avoids this new permit and additional costs by crossing tracks. We're now driving at a 37.5% incline with the transit in the direction of the trade fair. Behind the slope is the 4-lane road, before which we must then safely come to a halt. Therefore, all vehicles are driven with compressed air brakes, and this must be checked before departure to see if it works. That's what we're doing here at the stand. On the trade fair site, Frank Pastior and his colleague want to see if the construction site work at the new halls might hinder the setup of transport logistic. Access roads must remain free for the arriving train from the freight handling station as well as for rescue routes. I don't like that. I hope they'll take that material away. They still have to tidy up properly. All this stuff here, that must go. Forget no parking. There's the train. I need at least 10 meters bypass. And then make sure that the fence really stays shut. Talk to the site management again later. The tracks are free. The first train sets off towards the trade fair. The train driver communicates with a colleague at the front of the train by walkie-talkie. Thomas Gabler accompanies the crossing of the motorway bridge. We can move a maximum of 3 to 4 wagons over it depending on the gradient, but that depends on the weather. So if it's wet, we have bigger problems. The locomotive then starts to skid. So we keep on the safe side and usually only take 3 wagons. With the wagons, however, we can push up well and on the other side brake well again. The next obstacle, a 4-lane road. Thomas Gabler himself switches the traffic lights to stop the cars and secures the road. On the trade fair site, things are getting exciting. The cable must pull the 87-ton heavy and 18.9 meters long Bombardier locomotive bit by bit onto the low loader. If it's transported from Kassel with a low loader, track barriers on the open road etc. would exceed costs many times over. You've got to be honest, these 2 hours are worth investing to get a beautiful picture. The locomotive rolls slowly onto the ramp. It'll be exciting now when the locomotive comes down for the ramp onto the low loader. Here we have a mechanically fixed connection to the ground, that is, everything is supported on the ground. Nothing can really go wrong here unless the cable breaks, then it becomes quite critical because the locomotive then rolls backwards at top speed. Things start to get interesting when it comes onto the low loader, that the low loader doesn't give way or sway, and hopefully all the technology works accordingly, so that the locomotive ends up standing safely on it.
Sicher draufsteht.
We've seen very nicely how the first wheel rolled over from the fixed ramp onto the low loader. The low loader hasn't budged a millimeter and has compensated the level with the hydraulics. Works wonderfully, so no problem at all. These are professionals working here. Great.
Alles überhaupt kein Problem. Es sind Profis, die da arbeiten. Ganz toll.
Made it. The locomotive can finally be brought to its final position on the low loader. Here it will be shown to the visitors at Transport Logistic in a few days' time. We are relieved that everything worked out, that there was no incident, the cable held, the locomotive is now secured up there, and we can actually hope for better weather at the trade fair.
Schöneres Wetter dann bei der Messe hoffen können.
From the locomotive back to the train. After crossing the road, it is now possible to drive on the trade fair site at a speed of 5 kilometers per hour. So pay attention mostly to the road, because here at the trade fair feeder line something unexpected can always happen. With the construction work here at the front, or if someone suddenly thinks he'll dash across the railway crossing, then you have to react quickly. For me, it's the first time I'm driving at Transport Logistic. This is completely new driving here, a whole new experience.
Und das ist eine ganz neue Erfahrung auf jeden Fall.
The project manager is meeting again for a last time with Georg Gartner and Christian Lepp today to see how their planning is going in practice. This means that all exhibits are here, and we can re-rail them all and get started with all exhibits. Oh, look, the first wagons are already coming. So, quite honestly, I'm glad that it's finally getting underway. We plan for a year here and we come up with lots of ideas and we lead constant discussions with the exhibitors, and we already know a bit of what they have in store and also what events are being planned. It's already exciting now, it's finally getting going. The gates are opening and the enthusiasm and the atmosphere, that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Das freue ich mich am meisten.